What if I told you that the red apple on your table isn't actually red? Not even a little bit. Color doesn't exist anywhere in the physical world. It's something your brain is making up right now, as you're watching this video. The reality around you is a silent, colorless symphony of electromagnetic waves, and your eyes are performing an elaborate magic trick to transform that invisible energy into the vibrant world you experience. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most sophisticated illusions your body ever created. Here's what might feel uncomfortable. That beautiful blue sky, those green leaves, the warm orange of a sunset, none of those objects have color. What they have is the ability to absorb and reflect different wavelengths of light. When sunlight hits a leaf, it absorbs most wavelengths but reflects back the ones we perceive as green. The leaf itself is just molecules doing molecular things. The greenness happens entirely inside your skull. An apple in a pitch-black room isn't any color at all. It's just matter waiting to interact with light. So what is light? Electromagnetic radiation waves of energy traveling through space at different lengths. Visible light makes up only a tiny sliver of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Radio waves, microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, these are all the same fundamental phenomenon, just at wavelengths your eyes can't detect. You're essentially blind to 99.9% of the electromagnetic universe. The visible spectrum ranges from about 380 to 700 nanometers in wavelength. At the short end, violet and blue. At the long end, red. Everything in between creates the rainbow. Your brain assigns different subjective experiences, what we call colors, to different wavelengths. Wavelength is a physical property. Color is a psychological one. And here's something remarkable. We have no way of knowing if my experience of red is the same as yours. We might agree that a stop sign is red, but your internal sensation could be completely different from mine. Now let's talk about the hardware, your eyes. When light enters, it passes through the cornea and lens, which focus it onto the retina. That's where the magic happens. The retina is covered in about 120 million light-sensitive cells called photoreceptors, in two varieties, rods and cones. Rods are the workhorses of low-light vision, incredibly sensitive, able to detect even a single photon, but they can't see color at all. They're basically black and white cameras, which is why everything looks grayish at night. You have about 120 million rods spread across your peripheral retina, which is why you can sometimes spot a dim star better by looking slightly to the side of it rather than directly at it. Cones are your color specialists. You have about 6 million, concentrated mostly in the fovea, the central part of your vision. But cones need more light to function, which is why color vision disappears in the dark. Here's the key. You have 3 types of cones: S cones, M cones, and L cones, short, medium, and long wavelength. S cones are most sensitive to blue light. M cones respond best to green. L cones peak at red-orange wavelengths. But none of these cones actually see blue or green or red. They simply fire electrical signals when they detect light in their preferred range. Your brain takes the relative activity of all 3 and computes what we experience as color. Think of it like mixing paint. With 3 primary colors, you can create thousands of hues. If your L cones fire strongly while M cones are moderately active and S cones are quiet, your brain interprets that as orange. This is the trichromatic theory of color vision, first proposed by Thomas Young in 1802 and later expanded by Hermann von Helmholtz. But wait, if we only have 3 cone types, how do we see colors like brown, pink, or magenta? Here's the mind-bending truth. Some colors you see don't correspond to any single wavelength. They're purely constructions of your brain. Brown is essentially dark orange interpreted in context. Pink is what your brain creates when red light mixes with white. Magenta doesn't exist on the rainbow spectrum at all. It's what happens when your brain tries to make sense of seeing red and blue simultaneously without green. These extra spectral colors only exist in your mind, proof that color is computation, not detection. Now, what happens when this system doesn't work perfectly? Color blindness affects about 8% of men of Northern European descent, but only about 0.5% of women. This sex difference exists because the genes for L cones and M cones live on the X chromosome. Men have only one X chromosome, so a single mutation causes color blindness. Women have a backup. The most common form, red-green color blindness, happens when L cones or M cones are missing or malfunctioning. Traffic lights, ripening fruit, maps with red-green coding all become daily puzzles. Here's something weirder. Your brain constantly lies to you about color. Walk from sunlight into a fluorescent-lit room, everything looks normal within seconds. But daylight is quite blue, while fluorescent light is much greener. Your eyes receive completely different signals, yet white paper still looks white. This is color constancy, your brain color-correcting reality in real time. This system can be tricked. Remember the viral argument about the dress white and gold versus blue and black? That wasn't about different eyes. It was about brains making different assumptions about the lighting. Your brain unconsciously subtracts what it thinks is the light source's color to reveal the true color. If your brain assumed shadow, you saw white and gold. If it assumed direct yellow light, you saw blue and black. Neither was wrong, just different best guesses from incomplete information. Here's another phenomenon you've experienced. Stare at a bright red square for 30 seconds, then look at a white wall. You'll see a ghostly cyan square. These afterimages happen because cones get tired. When you stare at red, your L cones become fatigued. Looking at white, your tired L cones under-respond. Your brain interprets this imbalance as cyan, the opposite of red. Why did we evolve color vision? Scientists long thought it was about finding ripe fruit, and that's part of it. Fruit that's ready to eat is often red or yellow against green foliage, standing out like beacons. But recent research suggests something more social. Primates with trichromatic vision tend to be more social and use color signals in communication. Blushing might have evolved as a signal that only works because we see subtle color changes in skin. Your ability to read emotions, detect illness, and judge health all depend on color vision. And here's a humbling thought. Some animals see colors you can't imagine. Mantis shrimp have 16 photoreceptor types compared to our 3. They see ultraviolet, infrared, and polarized light. Butterflies have at least 5 cone types. Birds see ultraviolet patterns on flowers invisible to us. Many flowers have evolved ultraviolet landing strips to guide pollinators' secret messages written in a language your eyes cannot read. We walk through a reality rich with information that remains forever invisible to us. So what's the takeaway? The colors you experience aren't passive recordings of the outside world. They're active constructions, interpretations created by your brain from incomplete data. Your eyes aren't cameras. They're interpreters, translating electromagnetic waves into the psychological language of color. Evolution didn't design your visual system to show you reality as it is, but reality in a way that helps you survive. The next time you watch a sunset or admire a painting, remember you're not seeing the world as it is. You're seeing a useful hallucination, a collaborative fiction created by 3 types of cells and a lot of processing power, and that's not a bug. That's a feature, because the question isn't whether your brain's version of color is accurate, it's whether it helps you find food, avoid danger, and connect with people. By that measure, your eyes are doing something remarkable, turning invisible waves into the technicolor experience of being alive.